everyone, Joe here from ActionX. Welcome to What's in the Tuber. Welcome back. If this is your 7th Tom Swift episode review for you today. Oh god, it's been a long one for me. I feel a little out of it in terms of just, I don't know, it's been a weird day. It's been a very weird day. Especially for this week of Tom Swift, where this episode was an improvement from last week. I definitely do see that the quality did increase a tad bit. I still found it very certain moments were very oh, it was plot convenience over just, well, then again, everything in media is plot convenience. Like, it so happenly that the heroes managed to get a certain clue or a piece of tech that allows them to kind of win the day in the end. But I'll give it credit that it balanced it well. There was a lot of them, but there was also a lot of okay, there's just some fair victories. Let's say that. Not to say that this episode was perfect, mind you. It's better than last week. It definitely gave us a little bit more insight on Isaac as a character after the way we ended him up last week, and it just it goes to show on how very confusing and also as well as kind of maniacal the Roadback's plan is. I still don't understand the full gist of the master plan. And again, now that we're at this week's and 3 episodes to go before the end, I'm still debating if they're really going to land the ship off well. I really don't know. I hope they do, but it's just every passing out. This episode felt fundamental to the characters, but with the time running out, I really don't know. But we'll figure it out. But let's go for the Butcher recap and talk about this week's episode of Tom Swift. So we pick up where we last left off. Everyone's running into the lab. Isaac's completely knocked out. He's been completely poisoned, and Tom's tracking his last location, trying to figure out who could have poisoned him between the events of yesterday to today. Again, we're just assuming that his CPR kiss with Isaac, his CPR kiss with the bodyguard probably triggered it, and as well as Isaac paid a visit to him and his parking lot in his apartment building. So there's a lot of connections to him, so Tom needs to go after him, but of course Isaac has to be revived and resuscitated first, but Tom does not have the means to really come up with a full-blown antidote, so they have a doctor, I believe, on staff that can help them out, but they need to buy some time before they can get the main antidote going. So Tom and Zenzi has to head over to Swift's Industries or Enterprise? I'm going to say Enterprise because it's really getting annoying for me. It really is. They have to head to the building anyway because it's one of their big tours for some of their investors and important people that want to know what are they working on now? How do we get them, to still invest in us so we can get some money going? So no matter what, they still has to be focused, since even though that Tom has a lot in his mind, he still doesn't remember he's still technically the future CEO of this company, so he has to run it to a T in order to preserve the legacy and preserve there being a company at the end of the day to have, and also to fund all these ventures. So they head off there. I believe Ion gets filled in on the whole situation with Isaac. And I guess this is also the point where Tom's mom is now starting to be fully transparent about Tom's trial, as well as just everything that she's been doing behind the scenes to get Tom ready for this moment. And of course, however, Ion's still a little bit mad at her because of the whole his mom thing with the truth about why she was put away, as well as everything, and he's still in the emotional state of he doesn't fully understand the situation, so he's just blaming it on her for the moment because that's really the only one. They're tasked to stay at the Manor to watch over Isaac and administer any temporary aid or any sort of antidote they might come up with in the meantime. However, before they're able to get inside the Swift lab, there's coincidentally a power outage, so they can't get in, and so now they're stuck with Isaac kind of being all by his lonesome. Tom and Zenzi head over to the building, to the Enterprise headquarters. Tom is already, of course, trying to figure out everything that's going on. They meet with the congressman first because he's also one of the special guests for today. And where was I going with that? Yeah, so they're talking. It's a little banter. Of course, Zenzi and him still have a little bit of awkwardness since a few weeks ago with their date that didn't really go so well. So this is the first time they're seeing each other in a while. Tom requests the bodyguard's presence by himself for some reason. The congressman was like, "Yeah, sure, go take him. I don't care." Which I'm like, isn't that a little bit sus? I would have tried to make a little bit more of maybe a defensive strategy, try and prevent him from getting access to him, but all right. so be it. So Tom goes to talk to him, threatens him about like what he do to Isaac, and he's like, "Hey, look, man, I didn't do anything. I know the roadback's trying to kill you," which is coincidentally odd because yesterday he literally told Tom and the others that, oh, if they were gonna kill Tom, it would have been me who would have killed them. And now today he's like, oh yeah, I knew they were trying to kill you. Boy, you change sides so often, and your mind like literally forgets certain details, or you just have this epiphany like after the fact, like Jesus, you are so inconsistent, to be honest with you. And it's not even a game anymore. It really isn't. Zazi's tasked to take over the tour guide and make sure that everything goes swimmingly for the company. I think that that other CEO that Tom's sadly got blown off about a few weeks ago during that party. I think she's part of the tour guide group, and this is kind of like another chance for Tom to maybe win her back in her good graces, but it doesn't really work out, to be honest with you, since Tom has to go save Isaac, which of course is more important, but at the end of the day, with these people, they don't understand the full situation, nor they can, so they'll never really get it. Everything seems to be going around with the group. The congressman is trying to make amends with Zazie, trying to at least get back into her good graces, so maybe they can have a follow-up date, but Zazie's not really buying it at the moment, so it doesn't really matter to them. Tom talks to the bodyguard, trying to figure out, is there any sort of solution we can do to try and figure out what's going on? And they do, but however, it requires them breaking in to somewhere again, but they have to have the whole building empty for some reason. So they're going to pull off a little heat warning, temperature rising incident, so everyone has to basically go on the ground floor away from the building, which is ironic because this entire week in New York is a freaking heat wave. Like, don't get me wrong, it is now 90 degrees at the time of this recording. I'm dying. I'm slowly dying under here, but, consistency with the reviews, I will power through. So help me God, I will. No matter how much I sweat, I'll just take another damn shower before I go to bed. Anywho, so Tom raises the temperature. Zazie has to go pay a quick visit to her office, but she gets locked in, and certain gas and I guess carbon monoxide breathes in there, so she passes out and is about to die. The congressman finds her. He breaks into her office, gets her out of it, and with some help from the ambulance, they manage to resuscitate her. So that's great as well. Meanwhile, while Isaac is kind of knocked out, Isaac still has a role. He's not a dead good looking body this week. No, he's actually, we got the Isaac flashback. Like I said this a few weeks ago when we got Isaac's flashback during the Cowboy episode, that was some of the weirdest flashbacks I've ever seen in my life, because it was shot so weirdly, in my opinion. This episode felt like a traditional flashback thing where, like, yeah, we're basically getting everything post-war. What has he been up to? How does he get involved with the Swifts, and the trials that they had to go through to get their trust in each other. So I'm going to just breeze through all the flashbacks, since I don't really want to keep jumping back and forth with them, because I'm probably going to forget one. So the first one, we see Isaac's at a barbecue with, I guess, his remaining army buddies that are still out of the service. They're trying to have some fun. They see a man getting chased by another man. Isaac manages to break up the chase by throwing the other man on the ground, and that other man gets away. The guy that he was chasing turns out to be Tom's dad, Barton Swift, and he's so impressed by, like, I'm very impressed with the way you saved me. I want to hire you, which I'm like, this feels like a freaking Bruce Thomas and Martha Wayne moment, to be honest with you. Better than Alfred, or better than Pennyworth. So we cover next, and there's a little bit of timeline confusion for me, since where was I? Where was I going with that? Oh yeah, so we're at the Swift Manor. It's Isaac's first day, and Barton's getting him acquainted with the rest of the family, specifically his wife, which for some reason he calls her bride, which I'm like, so I thought this was like a flashback, like way before. So I'm like, damn, Isaac's freaking young if he looks like that. But because it was confusing, because like I thought Tom was just a baby by this point. But no, by the time we get into Tom's room, it's literally shirtless dancing. And I have to be, I'm so sorry. Like, I do not know who made that ridiculous wig for Tian, for Tom's character, to differentiate young Tom from current Tom, which is only like a few years of a difference. But I'm like, Jesus Christ, this is, I can believe it, but it's just not done right for me. It just looks so off, and I guess it's just how Tom is presented nowadays. That it's like when you meet a good looking guy nowadays, and then you manage to get to know him, and you look back in his photos, he's a fucking dweeb with glasses and such, and it's kind of like nothing like that, but it's kind of bothering because I'm not used to it. Like Tom's hair is kind of like unique back in Nancy Drew's episode he was in, and also in the show, so. It was weird for me to see that. It was like not really well done. And Tom initially at first thought he was going to get in on the action, but he's like, no, I'm your new bodyguard. And at first, it was like kind of chill, kind of nonchalant till Tom mentions this, hey, where's my watch? I can't find my watch anywhere. That's when Isaac shuts down the party, kicks everyone out, and then, starts filing the incident report for the missing watch. And Tom's really just chilling with this. Like, he's a little bit like casual with it. He wants him to teach him some things, and I guess Tom wanted to have like a bodyguard to hook up with, and I'm guessing Isaac was kind of down with it for a little bit, but he's like, no, I don't mix pleasure at work. I really don't. Which also questions like, is Tom 18 by this point? Like, I'm pretty sure he's legal age because this is like the timeline wise. Actually, they never confirm how old Tom is in the current run. I mean, I know he's over 21 because he drinks all that hard alcohol, but I don't know how old he is. But anyway, so besides that moment, after Isaac gets us a little bit of a rant about Tom's characteristics and his personality, about how like, yeah, you're just a spoiled kid. You don't know how it is in the real world. Like right now, I'm only doing this job just to get the money, not for my own living, but to help out a former ally who's currently stuck in jail, stuck in prison for crimes she did not commit, and I need to get her out of it, but I don't have 50 grand on me. And Tom's like, I got you, bro. You gonna be my friend. I'm gonna just give you the money. And he's like, no, I don't take charity. Like, I work for my money. And you think that just writing a check is easily gonna win off friendship? That's not earning friendship. You're just buying friendship. That isn't strong. And he's just making a comparison to how like Tom invites all these random guys over to his house just to have friends over. And then he just casually just lets them steal his property. And because he's like, okay, I can just buy another one. No big whoop. That's not the point of it. That's not the moral of the story here. So by that point, Isaac has enough of it. He quits, but he's still under service for the entire day. So he stays over and is about to get a game of spades with Tom's mom. And briefly, they're like, getting into it, like, about just being, casual friends, getting to know each other a little bit. And eventually, Tom and a very young Zazie, like, this makes no sense. Like, Zazie looks young. I believe this is a teenage Zazie. Then again, they've done, the actress Ashley Murray has played a teenager before in the CW, so it was really like, we can just do something similar. We can just get Josie again. So it's like, that's believable. I can believe that. Tyen's wig is like, I couldn't even look. I just looked at the face the entire episode. Like, I could not even deal with that. So they play a game. It's very fun. They're bonding as a family, but of course Isaac still wants to leave and go and get away from this place. Tom decides to have one more game with his watch on the line, and it's like, so if Tom wins, Isaac gets to stay, but if Isaac wins, he gets to leave and also take the watch. Isaac wins, and on his way out, he meets Eon, but Eon's like, "Oh, you're the new bodyguard." He's like, "Not anymore. This was I think his first or second or only day, and he's already out the door." And he said, like, yeah, so about the whole watch thing. And Eon said, well, Tom would never really willingly throw his watch in there for a game he knows he has no chance of winning. So there must have been a secondary motive behind him, which is when Isaac realized that, oh, Tom did this because he wants to try and help me, but trying to get around my own personal boundaries. So Isaac gains a little bit of respect for Tom in this moment, and he decides to stay on board with the Swifts and, keeps being their bodyguard for up until the show's present. Which is ironic, which back over at the Manor, Ion's really laying into his mom, to Tom's mom about like the fact that not only did you fire Isaac because all he was doing is trying to help me, as well as you basically imprisoned my mother. And, once Tom's mom decides to like, really get into the weeds of things about trying to like, make him understand like, there's a reason why I did this. Like, I did not have pleasure from doing any of that. I suffered doing this because these were hard choices I had to make. Ion doesn't see it at first. He harnesses his like his electricity powers or whatever you want to call it. He bangs open the door and manages to get into the Swift lab so they can take care of him. Isaac, I mean. back at the Swift Enterprises, Tom shirtless once again. We get it. We get Tom is hot. Tom, you did an amazing job on your body. We get it. We don't need to see this every damn week. Okay, I'm just being honest there. We don't need to. Okay, moving on. So they're doing basically a near shirtless antidote making scene, and it's fun. The dynamic's still there. It's still a little quirky. They get it to work. It's only a temporary antidote. It's not meant to be the cure. It's just meant to buy Isaac a few more hours while they get the real doctor to come over and administer some sort of real cure. So they head back over to the first floor. They're gonna send it out by drone, and Tom, for some, I get it, he has to check it on Zazie, but he gives the drone with Barton to the bodyguard so he can be the one to like send it out back to the Swift Manor. So Tom checks in on Zazie, who while she was at the ambulance and getting treatment, the congressman goes over again to try and make amends with her. And Zazie's like, I don't know how like one day you try to get your bodyguards to basically off me, and then today you save my life. Like, what the hell are you playing at? And he doesn't give a straight answer, but he does give her like one of his personal books with a code word, and this is very on the nose. Like, oh, my favorite passage is cracking the code. Like, bro, that is the most obvious statement to say. Here is the code. I'm helping you out. Like, you could have just said that. It means the same goddamn thing. So Zazie gets in. They have possession of it. However, the congressman, when he has the drone briefly, he overrides Barton, which is a little bit scary. That means to the point that means he still has some secret control over Barton at any point he sees fit. That all of Tom's work to kind of kick him off the server didn't really work, that we know of. But before he sends out the drone to administer the antidote to Isaac, he cuts open a little bit of his blood and he puts it in the vial and he sends it back over to the manor. We're at the manor after Leon and Tom's mom make amends, and you have like that good, nice wrap up thing. Like, I forgive you, you forgive me. Let's just move on. The antidote comes in, and for some reason it's cybernetically, like it's data mined into Isaac's body. I don't know how that works, but okay, cools, I guess. So it works very well. Isaac is back on his feet. By the time Tom and Zazie return to the manor, they're kind of a little bit surprised the fact that this antidote should not have cured you. So something was added there that Rowan, I remember his name now. Rowan added last minute, which is just his blood. So like, what was so special about his blood to make this antidote all work? But before they can get into that, they bring up the fact of they still need to figure out who was trying to really kill Tom. And Zazie's like, oh, I have a lead on that. I have a code with this book that the congressman just dotted over to make a word, cotillion. So they look at the cotillion footage and they find one of the other bodyguards trace something in the back of Isaac's neck when he was pretending to be Tom during that episode. And that's kind of when the poison originally started to interact with him. And they started remembering that, oh, this was the same bodyguard that killed that other dude in the first episode. And this was the same bodyguard. This is also the same, the same bodyguard that was at the dinner that Zazie and the congressman had. And lastly, for some weird reason that we haven't gotten to yet, is that Isaac remembered during his flashback that the man that was chasing Tom's dad was Rowan. Just more crazy and more delirious. So there's a lot more about him we don't know. And again, now we have a completely new thing with Rowan that we have to figure out. Like, we're close to solving none of the current storylines. So unless the next episode really starts hammering to the teeth, I really don't know, man. I really don't know what they're gonna do. I really don't know. So now they have to realize what is his bodyguard like the roadback's really more methodically planned than we thought. That night, the congressman meets up with the other lady CEO and that specific bodyguard, and they're talking to him about his recent infatuation of Zazie has gotten in the ways of his tasks and his duties to the roadback, and she tried to get Zazie killed today during the midst of the heat crisis, but however, since the congressman went to go save her, it kind of questions his loyalty to the roadback. So as a test, she said, you can either kill Zazie right now, or you can go and kill the Swift family doctor. For some reason. I really don't know. He kills the doctor to protect Zazie, And she's like, okay, we're good. I don't think you're good. I really don't think you're good, but, you know, I'll believe you anyway, either way. And that's where this week's episode of Tom Swift ends it up. So again, for me, I think this was a good episode to understand more of Isaac's character. I'll give benefits to that. Other than that, it was nice to see Leon and Tom's mom have a little bit of like a patch up after the last few weeks. So that was good to see. Otherwise, everything, like, it was definitely an improvement from last week. I'll say that much. I enjoyed this episode more. Like, I appreciate the fact that they actually gave us like a little bit of like a, if you missed it moment and detail, it actually comes back into play later on. So I'll give them that. But the thing is that just, it was just like adding into the fact that Rowan has a secret origin, or like he had a different purpose. The day that Isaac originally met him, is like, you're just adding so much that, again, I know that you're trying to make this thread, but like, you have 3 episodes left. Like, I know that's 3 hours of television, but considering the way Tom Swift is going, I have no idea if they're going to be able to like properly pace out these conclusions. I really don't know. Like, that's a big factor. I don't even know myself right at this moment. Like, we'll figure out more next week, but like, I really don't know. Like, your guess is as good as mine. Tom's young wig was like the red herring of the episode. It was just really bad. That's the last time I'll ever say it. I hope we don't get to see that wig ever again. Never. And yeah, other than that, like, this was an improvement over last week. It still is not averaging as well as I thought. Definitely there was a dip in quality, and I'm hopeful the last 3 episodes will kind of bring it home, at least end off the series on a decent note, but we'll see how it goes. But otherwise, with this week's Tom Swift episode, I give this episode 1.5 thumbs up. I liked it. It's not the best improvement over last week, but, you know, hopefully this is just, we're going to just keep going up and up from this point onwards. But yeah, that's going to do it for me. Let me know in the comments below, what did you think of this week's episode of Tom Swift? Let's start the conversation down below as always. And I believe that's going to do it for me today, everyone, since I'm dying of heat over here. So if you're unaware, this has been What's the Two from ActionX, reviewing every episode in Tom Swift. If you want to know what we're doing normally, What's the Two? Well, we're currently just doing Tom Swift episodes at the moment. We're going to be starting up our High School Musical reviews again in a couple weeks, so stay tuned to that. Otherwise, we're just doing Swift episodes for now, so that's about it. So if you don't care about Tom Swift, you're in luck. We'll be back next week with another brand new episode review. Again, just to repeat, we're going for next 3 weeks, new episode reviews, and then the week after the finale, we'll be doing a definitive series review, full spoilers, since we're not coming back from another round. So there we go, and that'll wrap up our Tom Swift coverage forever, which is unfortunate, but it's the nature of the TV business / the current era of the CW, so it is what it is. But again, this has been What's the Two from ActionX. Please subscribe to us on youtube.com/ActionX videos. Ring that bell for notification when our next episode reviews live. Please also follow us on social media to stay up to date with any sort of updates we may have for either of our channels. And please also ring that bell. But until we see each other again, for all you members of the Swift Squad out there, I'll see you all next week. But until then, stay safe out there, be good to each other, and as always, peace out.